Just months after Gucci Mane accused Pooh Shiesty of kidnapping and robbing him, Gucci made a move almost nobody saw coming. While Shiesty remains behind bars awaiting trial, his former mentor has released a brand new album under Shiesty's name. Now, Pooh Shiesty is reacting to everything surrounding the release, and the situation is getting seriously messy. Let's break it down. First, let's look at what's happening right now, because this is the part everybody is watching. Pooh Shiesty, whose real name is Lontrell Williams Jr., is currently in federal custody in Dallas. He isn't there over a parole violation or a simple probation issue. He's facing kidnapping and robbery charges, and a judge has already decided he won't be getting out anytime soon. Shiesty was denied bail after a judge determined that he could be a flight risk, sending him straight back into custody in Texas. Then, right in the middle of all this, a new Pooh Shiesty project arrived this week. According to reports circulating among industry insiders, Gucci Mane is behind the release of a new Pooh Shiesty album. The project is expected to feature 17 songs and 5 guest appearances, and the internet reaction was immediate. Some people are calling it the last laugh because of everything that has happened between these two men over the past several months. And that detail matters. The artist is locked up, while the label boss is the one putting new music into the world. But here's where things get even more interesting, because Shiesty hasn't exactly stayed quiet through all of this. His reactions just haven't come through the usual press release route. During court proceedings, when an FBI agent testified about a statement Gucci allegedly gave to Dallas police, Shiesty reportedly leaned his head against the courtroom wall and shook his leg. Then, when the agent claimed Gucci told his own security team to put their weapons down, Shiesty reportedly shook his head in disbelief right there inside the courtroom. That was reaction number 1. Reaction number 2 came from his lawyer, Bradford Cohen, who has represented Shiesty through several of his legal battles. Cohen described the case as highly questionable and argued that the FBI would not normally wait 3 months to make an arrest if they believed the information presented was straightforward. He also told reporters there was no contract, no video showing a signing, no weapons recovered, and no jewelry recovered. In his view, there was no physical evidence that directly supported the government's version of events. Then, there's reaction number 3, coming from Shiesty's other attorney, John Helms. Instead of focusing only on the criminal allegations, Helms looked at the situation through the lens of the music business. He said the government was trying to frame the situation as a dispute over money between Lontrell and his record label, but added that in the music industry, things are often not as simple as they appear. That's a lawyer trying to reframe a kidnapping allegation as a contract dispute that spilled into public view, and it shows just how heavily contested this case is. Then there's the internet itself, which has become another source of reaction. When a video surfaced showing an Atlanta inmate tossing a copy of Gucci's memoir over a jail railing, fans quickly interpreted the moment as a sign of frustration with Gucci while the legal battle continued. People connected to the situation, not just people watching from home, are taking sides. So before even getting into the backstory, there are already 4 separate reactions. Shiesty's body language in court, attorney Bradford Cohen calling the case questionable, attorney John Helms presenting a different interpretation of the dispute, and inmates and fans publicly showing their own frustration with Gucci. All of this is happening while a fresh Pooh Shiesty album is sitting on streaming platforms with his name attached to it, even though he's nowhere near a microphone to personally promote or explain the project. And if you're wondering how an album can be released while the artist is behind bars, that's only part of what makes this story so complicated. To understand it, we have to go back to January, to a Dallas recording studio, and to the day the relationship between these two men reportedly collapsed, before this became a headline involving legal accusations, music, and a project dropping while Shiesty was in custody. It was presented as a business meeting. At least, that was the setup. Federal prosecutors say 3 people from the music industry were invited to Dallas on January 10th to discuss business. One of them was Gucci Mane, the founder of 1017 Records, who signed Shiesty to the label in 2020. According to the Department of Justice, what was supposed to be a conversation about a recording contract allegedly turned into something far more serious. Prosecutors say Pooh Shiesty produced an AK-style pistol and forced Gucci Mane to sign a document that would release him from his recording contract. With the firearm allegedly still pointed in his direction, Gucci was reportedly forced to say on camera that he had released Williams from the deal. That footage eventually became part of the public record instead of staying inside an evidence file. Prosecutors say fellow rapper Big 30, whose legal name is Rodney Lamont Wright Jr., recorded the incident while inside the studio. Once the footage surfaced, released. Prosecutors argued that it appeared to support the allegations they had already laid out in court documents. Federal prosecutors released footage that they say shows Pooh Shiesty forcing Gucci Mane to verbally release him from his record label contract inside the Dallas studio. In the video, a man identified in court filings allegedly pulls out a firearm and blocks a doorway. Shiesty is then heard instructing Gucci to tell the camera that he is being dropped from the deal, but prosecutors say the contract issue wasn't the end of the encounter. After Gucci allegedly said what he was instructed to say, Williams was accused of taking his wedding ring, watch, earrings, and cash. Prosecutors also alleged that Big 30 blocked the exit, leaving multiple people inside the studio unable to leave. One person was reportedly choked from behind and nearly lost consciousness. Photos included in the complaint allegedly show scratches around the person's neck and wrist. Altogether, prosecutors allege that Shiesty and his co-defendants took roughly $450,000 worth of personal property, including a wedding band, watch, earrings, and cash. And the story allegedly didn't end when everyone left the studio. Two co-defendants were accused of showing off items they allegedly took during the incident. One of them, identified in court filings as Terrence Rogers, allegedly posted a video afterward wearing what prosecutors described as a Rolex stolen during the robbery. Another co-defendant, DeMarcus Glover, allegedly shared images showing himself wearing jewelry prosecutors said had been taken from a victim inside the studio. If that account is accurate, it means the alleged aftermath of the robbery was showing up on social media almost in real time, but the arrests didn't happen immediately. Federal investigators reportedly spent nearly 3 months building their case, following Shiesty through what prosecutors described as a large amount of digital and physical evidence. According to Dallas station WFAA, investigators looked at location data from Shiesty's electronic probation monitor, cell phone records, rental car records, latent fingerprints, surveillance footage, and social media posts that allegedly showed some of the property involved. And there's another major detail here. Shiesty was already on home confinement for a previous firearms conviction when the alleged incident happened. That meant his ankle monitor may have provided investigators with location information, placing him near the scene. When the arrests finally came, they were extensive. 9 people were charged with kidnapping and conspiracy to commit kidnapping, including Shiesty, Big 30, and Shiesty's father, Lontrell Williams Sr. Prosecutors allege that Williams Sr. played a role in planning and carrying out the operation. If convicted on all counts, the defendants could face a maximum sentence of life in prison, but there was another detail buried inside the court filings that added an entirely different layer to the case. Prosecutors allege that Williams had an inappropriate relationship with one of his case supervisors. That supervisor allegedly created fake day passes that allowed Williams to travel to locations he wasn't approved to visit. Prosecutors say one of those trips happened on the same day as the Dallas meeting. That case supervisor has since been fired. Meanwhile, Shiesty's legal team has challenged major parts of the government's account. Bradford Cohen has repeatedly argued that there is no contract proving the alleged agreement, no separate video showing a contract being signed, and no recovered firearms or jewelry tied to the incident. His other attorney, John Helms, has also argued that the government's description of the dispute leaves out important context, suggesting there may be more to the story than a simple robbery allegation. Whatever the full truth turns out to be, one thing is undeniable. A meeting that was supposedly about a business disagreement ended with federal charges, public court evidence, and a viral video. It also marked a major break between Gucci Mane and an artist who had been closely connected to his label since 2020, and Gucci wasn't about to stay quiet. He responded in the place where he has always made his voice heard most clearly, the recording studio. Just 9 days after news of the arrest became public, Gucci Mane went right back to work. He released a diss track called Crash Dummy on a Friday, directly addressing the allegations that Shiesty had robbed him at gunpoint inside the Dallas studio. The timing was hard to miss because the track arrived only days after a judge denied Shiesty bond, adding another layer of tension to an already explosive situation. The song got straight to the allegations. Over a Zaytoven-produced beat, Gucci described walking into what he believed was a normal business meeting before realizing something was wrong. "I thought it was a business meeting, but it was a setup," he raps, giving listeners his version of what happened in the simplest terms possible. Later in the same verse, Gucci goes deeper into the atmosphere inside the room. Describing the moment he says he realized the situation had changed, he raps, "I walk in the room, you can feel the pressure building, pen to the paper, but it's under duress." Then came the line that grabbed the most attention, because Gucci used it to take aim at Shiesty's contract situation. Gucci raps, Tell the truth, you went out like a real crash dummy, and after all that, boy, you still signed to me," before comparing himself to Birdman and Cash Money. It was a flex mixed with an accusation, with Gucci essentially arguing that even after everything allegedly went down in that Dallas studio, Shiesty still hadn't escaped his record deal. Elsewhere on the track, Gucci makes a pointed comparison to hip-hop history, bringing up the infamous story involving Suge Knight, Eazy-E, and Dr. Dre's departure from Ruthless Records in the 90s. By making that comparison, Gucci places his own alleged experience alongside one of rap's most talked about stories involving weapons, contracts, and control over an artist's career. That is a pretty serious comparison. He's basically telling his side through one of hip-hop's most famous cautionary tales about what can happen when business, contracts, and street pressure collide, and the reaction to Crash Dummy split almost immediately. A lot of the debate centered on one question: did Gucci reveal too much about the case? One side of the internet treated the record as pure entertainment, seeing it as a rapper turning a serious personal experience into music. The other side looked at it almost like another piece of evidence connected to the legal battle. The top comment under the music video on YouTube read, "According to reporting, this the hardest witness statement out right now," showing exactly how some fans were viewing the track. To them, this wasn't just a diss song. It sounded like Gucci was putting his version of events on wax for everyone to hear. And that debate over whether Gucci had said too much didn't stay online. It eventually followed Shiesty into the courtroom. During his detention hearing, an FBI agent named Hansen testified about a statement Gucci had reportedly given Dallas police. According to Hansen, Gucci described being pushed onto a couch while firearms were pointed at him. Hansen also alleged that Gucci told his own security team, "We're outgunned," as he tried to prevent the situation from getting worse. Bradford Cohen pushed back hard during cross-examination. He questioned the agent about the couch, the firearms, and whether the details described in Gucci's statement matched the physical evidence investigators had collected. That physical evidence became an important subplot of its own. According to WFAA's reporting, the original criminal complaint used to arrest Shiesty referenced several types of evidence, but did not mention witness statements. Instead, the complaint relied on location data, phone records, fingerprints, and surveillance footage. That distinction mattered to Shiesty's defense because it meant the government's initial case was presented as being built largely around data rather than someone's personal account. Whether Gucci's later statement to police or lyrics from his diss track added anything meaningful to that foundation became exactly the kind of issue Cohen wanted to challenge during the hearing. Cohen's argument for bail also focused heavily on the timeline. He pointed out that federal investigators had spent months working on the case before making arrests. In his view, that delay suggested investigators may not have been completely convinced by the early accounts. Cohen described the early witness information as questionable and argued that if the case were as airtight as prosecutors claimed, an arrest would not have taken nearly 3 months. Prosecutors saw it completely differently. They told the court that Shiesty presented a flight risk and pointed out that he allegedly wasn't even authorized to be in Dallas under the terms of his existing home confinement. The judge ultimately sided with the government, meaning Shiesty remained in custody, and while Shiesty stayed behind bars, Gucci had already moved on to the next chapter. He had made his accusations public through the courtroom, put his version of events into a diss track, and now another move was coming. This time, the headlines wouldn't center on the alleged robbery itself. They would center on something that was missing from a track list. While Shiesty remained in custody waiting for his next court date, Gucci Mane was busy putting together a full multimedia rollout, one that, intentionally or not, kept pulling his former artist's name back into the spotlight. Gucci has long treated October 17th as his personal holiday, a celebration tied to his name and the 1017 brand. On that date, Gucci released both a new studio album and a memoir, turning October 17th into another major moment in his career. He celebrated the day by adding his 17th album and a new memoir, Episodes: The Diary of a Recovering Madman, to his growing catalog. The project came with 23 tracks, making the release a major event for the 1017 camp. Reporters caught up with Gucci in New York on release day, and he made one thing clear: he wasn't waiting around for permission from everyone in his personal circle before putting the book out. Speaking with TMZ, Gucci explained that despite the personal stories included in the memoir, he didn't need approval from friends or family before publishing the more revealing parts. They already knew how he was moving. In other words, Gucci was saying the book was coming out whether everyone around him loved the idea or not. But one detail became especially important once the bigger story developed. Even though Episodes arrived alongside a substantial 23-track album, Shiesty, who had recently returned home after serving time, wasn't included on the final track list. Gucci did confirm, however, that Shiesty was still part of the 1017 team and that his contract remained intact. So here was an artist who had just returned home after years away, while his label boss released a major project without a single feature from him, all while publicly maintaining that the business relationship was still in place. That absence could be interpreted in different ways. Some fans saw it as nothing more than timing. Shiesty had only recently returned and may not have had enough time to record or prepare a feature. Others viewed it as a quiet sign that the label's priorities had shifted. Nobody could know for sure, but that uncertainty became much more interesting once the Dallas case exploded into the headlines. After the case became public, fans started looking back at older moments between Gucci and Shiesty and searching for clues they might have missed the first time around. And that same thing happened with Gucci's memoir. Once Crash Dummy dropped and the online debate over Gucci's statements started getting louder, an older moment suddenly took on a different meaning. A viral video began circulating that appeared to show an Atlanta inmate throwing a copy of Gucci's memoir, Episodes, The Diary of a Recovering Madman, over a jail railing. The internet immediately turned the clip into its own kind of statement. Some fans viewed it as a symbolic rejection of Gucci, while others saw it as nothing more than a viral moment that people were giving a much bigger meaning to than it deserved. People who were literally locked up were now being shown tossing Gucci's own book away as a public show of support for Shiesty. It was only a short clip, but it seemed to capture something much bigger. For part of the fan base, this had stopped looking like just a legal case and started looking like a loyalty test, and that loyalty test kept playing out in public. Some supporters questioned Gucci's role in the case altogether, especially after reports that he gave a statement to Dallas police about what allegedly happened that fueled accusations that Gucci had cooperated with law enforcement against Shiesty. The obvious counterpoint was that Gucci was the person who said he had been robbed at gunpoint, but online debates don't always follow courtroom logic. In the court of internet opinion, working with police against another rapper can carry its own stigma, regardless of who is accused of doing what. Big 30's involvement added another layer. Prosecutors say he recorded the video showing Gucci being forced to release Shiesty from his contract, and he was charged alongside Shiesty and Shiesty's father. But Big 30 was later released on bond, while Shiesty remained in custody. That different outcome fueled even more online speculation about how each defendant's situation was being viewed by the court. Still, a bond decision by itself doesn't establish who is responsible for what happened. Through all of this, Gucci kept confirming one detail: Shiesty was still signed to 1017. He wasn't publicly dropped, and there was no announcement that his contract had been terminated. He was simply absent from a track list, while Gucci continued building his own catalog and memoir. And that brings the story right back to the present. A new project carrying Pooh Shiesty's name has arrived, while the artist himself remains unable to sit down for interviews, promote the project normally, or explain his side of the rollout in person. So here's where everything stands. Pooh Shiesty remains in federal custody in Dallas. There's no bond and no release date, while a federal case carrying potentially severe consequences continues moving through the courts. At the same time, his music keeps reaching listeners, even though he isn't standing beside it to promote every release. And this isn't the first time Shiesty has used music to speak while behind bars. Back in August, before this latest project, he announced a surprise album and released a new single called Last Man Breathin', marking his first new song since his arrest in connection with the alleged robbery and kidnapping involving Gucci Mane. The track was planned for a project called All Eyes on Shiesty, and it gave fans an early glimpse into how Shiesty appeared to be processing his situation from behind bars. The song feels almost like a diary entry written under harsh fluorescent lights. He raps about feeling the walls closing in and thinking about the day he might finally get released, while referencing another incarcerated person who received a 75-year sentence and wouldn't be free until reaching 100. This isn't a victory lap. It sounds more like someone confronting his own mortality while stuck inside a system that doesn't care about streaming numbers, hit records, or celebrity status. He raps about being close to freedom, but still unable to move, about carrying multiple identities at once, and about having to keep fighting to survive no matter what comes next. That's Shiesty's version of a reaction, not a statement to reporters, not a social media post, a verse recorded and sent into the world while he remains behind bars, while the person at the center of his lyrics, Gucci Mane, continues expanding his own career and business outside the walls. And when you zoom out, there's a strange symmetry to the whole situation. One artist is using music to speak from inside custody, while the other is using music, books, and business moves to control his story from the outside. And now, on top of All Eyes on Shiesty, a second wave of music is landing. This new 17-track project with 5 features is already being framed by some fans as the last laugh because, Whoever controls the masters ultimately has a major say in when the music gets released, and right now, that control appears to be outside the hands of the artist sitting behind bars. Complex's timeline of the relationship points out that this isn't even the first time Shiesty's catalog has been released while he was locked up. Just 9 days into a previous prison term, a new Shiesty project called Shiesty Season Certified reportedly dropped, packed with 32 songs designed to keep fans listening. While his legal situation played out, 2 of those tracks even featured Gucci himself, so the pattern of a Shiesty project appearing while he can't personally promote it isn't exactly new. What's different this time is the tension surrounding it. The music is arriving in the middle of a bitter legal fight between the artist and the very label boss who helped launch his career. Back when Shiesty first went away on the gun charge, Gucci was publicly supporting him. When Shiesty was released early, Gucci posted, "Welcome home, Pooh Shiesty. The main slime is back." At the time, Shiesty's lawyer, Bradford Cohen, was also talking about a comeback bigger than anything before, pointing out that prosecutors had sought a much longer sentence, while the judge ultimately gave Shiesty 3 years. That was a story about redemption. Everybody appeared to be moving in the same direction. But now, those same 2 names are back in the headlines, and the entire relationship looks completely different. According to prosecutors, Gucci was allegedly held at gunpoint and robbed by the artist he had helped build up. Shiesty's defense, meanwhile, has challenged major parts of that account, arguing that there was no contract, no recovered firearm, no recovered jewelry, and questioning the timeline of the investigation. Those competing versions are still unresolved in court. Both sides of the story now sit before the federal justice system, while new Pooh Shiesty music continues reaching streaming platforms on a schedule that doesn't necessarily match Shiesty's ability to participate in the rollout. For now, the practical reality hasn't changed. Shiesty remains in custody, and his legal case is still ahead of him. Big 30, his father, and the other co-defendants also remain tied to the case, with serious potential penalties if they are ultimately convicted. Meanwhile, Gucci continues releasing music, his own, and apparently Shiesty's as well, keeping his former protege's name and voice circulating around the culture. Whether Shiesty agrees with every move or not, the music business keeps moving. And that may be the strangest part of this entire story. One artist is sitting behind bars, waiting for his day in federal court while his music continues coming out into the world. The other artist is on the outside, controlling his own career, telling his version through songs and books, and remaining connected to the catalog that helped make Shiesty a household name. Whatever happens inside that Dallas courtroom in the months ahead, one thing is already locked in. There is a brand new Pooh Shiesty project out in the world, while the only reaction from the artist himself came through music recorded from behind bars, before the release date was even set, and that's where this story stands for now. A label relationship that once looked like a major success story has turned into a legal battle, a war of narratives, and now another music release that has fans arguing over who really controls the story. What do you think about this situation? Is Gucci simply handling business and releasing music he has the right to release? Or does the timing make the whole situation look different? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear the full story. And stay locked in, because if anything changes in the courtroom or on the music side, we'll be here to break it down.